When you came in today, they handed you a insert sheet that had the song on it that we just did. I'm going to sit at the welcome table. If you turn it over, it talks about the spiritual inventory. Next week is going to be a birthday party here at this church. You are 120 years old as of October the 14th, which happens to be next Sunday. It's just a God thing. And man, what a great thing to do. You know, I told the folks over at Farrar, I said, the Mingo Church is going to have a party. Now, to be honest with you, I tell them you're over here partying all the time. And they're thinking to ourselves, we ought to go over there because Pastor always says they end up partying all the time. You got a block party, then you got a chili party coming up. You're going to celebrate your birthday. I thought, I love it. It's a good thing, you know. So if we get some visitors showing up over here, there'll be a reason, okay? So they want to be part of the party itself. I said, you want to see how it's done? Come on over and get a chance to share with them and to put that all together. Now, I share all that with you because one of the things I'd like us to do is to just take an opportunity to look at this little sheet of paper. We've been preparing for the Charge Conference, and I've taken all those little things you filled out of what is a wildly important goal and a wildly impossible goal, and I've been working those out, laying them all out, and then trying to find, you know, things that match, and then move it to the next column, and willow it down a little more, and try to get some words and pieces, put it together. And at the Charge Conference today, we're going to talk about that. And next Sunday, as part of the celebration piece, I'm going to talk about that because I'm going to show you what the 3-4 things are that you said are important for you in this church, and the wildly important and impossible goals that go with it. Some of you even gave me numbers, quotas. You said that we bring in at least so many families, that so many kids more, 3 kids more go to Sunday school. I mean, you were really good. You gave me good stuff. So I'm going to bring it all down and show it to you because I think it's important that you have an opportunity to do that. Now, we're also going to recognize next week people who've said yes to service in the church, which in this church means everyone. Yes, very good. If you haven't been contacted yet, that's because I've got your name and because I've been in Colorado. So, you know, there's a reason. I'll get a hold of you this week. We'll do that. But what I want to tell you is that, you know, it was really, really great to see people coming back and the folks that are working with me on the nominations team to see how many people have been saying yes, you know, serving in positions and doing those kinds of things, and I think it's a wonderful thing. So as we ask you to help us and to serve us, now our question back to you is, how can we serve you? That's what church is supposed to do, you know. I've had people say to me, Pastor, I hope you do a Bible study. And I go, oh, I love Bible studies. Yes, I'll do a Bible study. And they've given me several topics to put in, and I thought, great, no problem. I'll be glad to do that. But here's what I want you to know. We're going to begin this journey, as everyone is, and I put this little sheet together. We're not going to do it this week. We're going to do it next week. But if you want to do it, some of you love to do advanced homework, so you can take this sheet home with you, and you could do it and bring it to me, and then you can just relax next week as we get into this whole thing. Because what I want you to do is to complete the circle for me. We ask you to do things. How can we serve you as a church and do the things that you need? Years ago, when I used to work with the general church, we tried to influence the book of discipline. That's a very hard thing to do. You got to go to general conference and influence them in good ways. We talked about putting together covenant groups, that kind of thing, reestablishing John Wesley's spirituality thing. And one of the things we talked about was encouraging churches to ask their people every year, got your attention? Where are you? And where do you want to be next year? You with me? Now, doesn't that make sense? Where are you now in your spiritual journey, in your life, and where do you want to be next year? Now, I do that in churches sometimes, and they look at me and they go, nobody's ever asked us that question. And I'm like, well, forgive us, because we should have been asking that question of you. Isn't that what the church is all about, you know? I was at the Bible study, or at the, Bible study, or at the, for our church yesterday morning. And one of the things they started talking about was about being disciple. And somebody said, well, what is a disciple? And I like to not, I just kind of sit back and listen to it and everything else. Man, we got everything from A to Z. I thought, note to self, we're going to preach a little about that next week. I'm going to give you a simple little thing you can say. If somebody says to you, what is a disciple? You're able to say it, and I am one of those, you know? You'll feel good about that. Because I think it's important to know since that's our mission, and it's Jesus' mission, and therefore we're to call it that mission, what it means to be a disciple. So the church is, how can we help you grow in your faith? There's a lot of churches that just say, just show up on Sunday and that's it. But you know, you feel like you got an itch, you got a scratch. There's something I don't quite, there's some things I've always wondered about or would like to do or something, or test it out and just move myself a little bit higher in the process itself. And sometimes there are the faithful few who attend the Bible studies who keep moving up to perfection, but the rest of us go, I can't do it now, it's not enough time, I don't know some of those people, I have to do it at a time when nobody else do it, and it's a topic that nobody ever want to talk about. Well, I have good news for you. What we want to do is to not shoot with a shotgun, but to shoot with a rifle. We're going to ask, this is like sales technique here, you know, but I think Christianity is all about sales, marketing, you know. How can we help you to identify where you want to go by next year? And then you tell us, and then you also tell us, what could we produce in a program, in a study, in an experience, starting up something new, carrying off something we've done before, so that you have an opportunity to really say at that particular point, this will help me to grow in my faith. Whether you're just beginning in the faith or you are sitting saved and sanctified, as some say, how can I move forward in the faith relationship that I find myself in? Does that make sense to you? So on this sheet, if you look at it, it says this. Number one, where are you in your Christian walk? Number two, this is like a spiritual inventory. Yeah, where would you like to be? Where would you like to be? Number three, where, and if you think you're okay and you should stay where you are, you pray about that a little bit, okay? And just do that. Number three, where would you like to be in your spiritual and spiritual walk 1 year from today? How would you like to see a difference? Some people want to make giant steps, and some want to make just little incremental things. But I want you to do that as a church. It's going to be critical, because you can't complain or have an issue if we say, well, you know, you didn't do that. Well, it's because you didn't tell us. Because see, here's what I think, and this is what I found in churches. You all are pretty close. There are certain things you want and you need that is shared by more than just you. Sometimes we don't say it, so it's important to say it, because then we can form what it is we need. If we need a Bible study on a particular topic, you know, we can do it. You need a parenting group, we can do that kind of thing, you know, whatever it might be. If you want to talk about, you know, why does God allow bad things to happen, good people, that kind of thing. You want to hear about, you know, what is Revelations, what's going on. I've heard some people. That's great, no problem. Just put that together. We'll get some other folks together and make that happen. And we'll do it not just on a Sunday morning, because it makes it a little difficult for this guy, but we'll find time that we can do that. And it may be different places, maybe in your kitchen or share kitchens, or maybe in a coffee place somewhere. I have no idea what it'll be. Maybe we got to start a coffee thing, you know, and have people stop by. Maybe it's just not for us. Maybe we hold this coffee, maybe we hold this Bible study in the community center or outside the community center. I have no idea. Just somewhere, you know, paradigm shift, upset the apple cart, see where it goes, and we just do that kind of thing. There's a list there of some things, and what I'd like you to do is just think about that. The churches to go to make disciples, and you just need to think about what that would be. Here's some ideas, but create whatever you want to. So it can be something like a beginning study of what is the Bible in 2 weeks, or 1 week. Tell me what the Bible's about in 1 week. That's all I've got, Pastor. That's great, not a problem. We'll do it. But we want to do it for a reason and a purpose. Y'all with me on that? And if you're really out there in the far end and you say, we'd like to go and do something different, you know, in Bondurant even, I'm happy to go to Bondurant and meet you there. That's about halfway for me in a way. But I think, you know, when we do those kinds of things, people come around and go, who are you? What are you doing here? We're doing a Bible study. Here in the middle of Bondurant? Yep, that's what we do. It's an outpost for us, you know, and put all that together. Because I think it's important. It's important for us to know how to practice our faith and to truly be what it means to be a disciple. Y'all know what a disciple is? I'll take whatever you say to me and I'll say it. It's that and more. We're going to talk about a little bit of that. And then you can add to the definition. We'll make that happen in a good way, you know, because it's important for us to think that through so that we know. Because sometimes we're out there doing stuff and you know what? We're not doing Christian stuff. We call it that. You ever go to one of those adult Bible studies? I went to church. We had an adult Bible study. I walked in there and I thought, okay, great. And I sat there and I listened for a while and I go, where are the Bibles? And they said, well, we just talk about it. Oh, you just talk about what you think and you vote on it, and that's what it is, right? Yeah, that's what we do. We don't get it confused by having the Bible stuff being referenced, So we just leave that out of it. I thought, that's why you call it a Bible study. It's good, Sometimes you got to do that. But when I was in Grundy Center, they invited me to come to the football games on Friday night early. I got to come in. I got to give a devotional to the football team and to pray with them before they went out on the field. Man, that whole school could have been shut down if that word got out, but it did. And, and the kids loved it. Most of the kids were part of my church, so it was like it's all together good and everything else. So I was thinking, man, what should I say about the first devotional thing, So I went to go see this guy in Grundy Center who is a national wrestling coach. He started up national wrestling magazines and the whole kind of thing. Great guy. And he is like, this is his world. And I said to him, you're one of the great coaches. He's in the Hall of Fame or whatever, for Wrestling Hall of Fame. I said, you're a great coach. Give me something I could talk about to these kids. And so he gave me an idea, and I said, okay, great, I'll do it. So I got there a little early, and I walked into the locker room, and I walked up to the first kid I saw, who I knew, and I said to him, hey, I have a question for you. He said, what's that? And I said, what position do you play? Where? I said, here, on this football team. What position do you play? And the kid says to me, and I thought, no, please not. Now, that may be the reason why you haven't won a game in this community for 24 years, I thought, what is this? So I went over to another kid. I said, hey, do me a favor. What, Pastor? I said, tell me what position you play out there in the field. Defensive end. I said, this is not a question. You don't ask me what you play. You know, don't you? Because I can't tell you what position you. I'm asking you. And he said that to me. He goes, defensive end? Is that what I play? Is that what I'm supposed to do out there? And I thought, we're in trouble. So I went to go speak to the coaches. They were all members of my congregation. Maybe one. But anyway, did that head coach and the whole thing. He wanted to change the whole program and everything else. I said, I think I got a solution for you. What's that? And I said, I asked him. He goes, no way. I said, they couldn't tell me what positions they play. I even went to the quarterback and I said, what position do you play? And he goes, I don't know, quarterback? And I thought, no way. So I had this whole devotional thing about that. I thought, man, we got to know what position we play, who we are, what we do. That's what I want to do next Sunday, is to talk about that. And I want to tell you ahead of time, I have a gift for every one of you. No, I'm serious. It's something you can actually take with you home. It's a nice little thing, but I want for everybody in the church to have one, because we're going to launch ourselves, re-up and relaunch ourselves as a church. John Wesley did it every year. Sometimes he did it 3 or 4 times. Somebody said, why is he doing it 3 or 4 times? Somebody said, well, he just forgot that he did it. But no, he did it for a reason, and he got the church going. He said, you know what? Relaunch yourselves. Do it again. What is the reason for you to do it? And commit to it. And make a covenant. It was called a covenant, relationship. I'll be your God, you be my people. And he actually got the church going again. Most churches go, well, we did that 126 years ago. No, we do it again. In today's world, if you go to places like Bondurant and you say to them, we're from the Mingo United Methodist Church, and you talk to them, then you said, we're relaunching, they go, whoa, that's something new. Mm-hmm. Whoa, I ought to come there and see what that's all about, But you got to know what position you play. And the good news was, as we went in the nominating team, and we discovered everybody's doing something, If you have not been contacted yet, that's because it's my responsibility to contact you, and I'll get to you, so don't worry, this week. But everybody does something, even if it's just stay at home and pray. It's a good thing to do and to make that happen. So that's what we want to look at. We want to talk about and make that all happen in a good way. So take this with you, fill it out, be ahead of the game, and bring it back with you next week as we do that and as we celebrate and put things together. This is Worldwide Communion Sunday. That means everybody around the world is supposed to be called to do communion today. And that's a good thing. And the reason I say that to you is because, when I was a kid growing up in the Methodist church, the pastor, he'd say to me, can you sing next Sunday? I'd say, sure. He'd go, oh, well, that's not good. I said, why? He goes, that's Communion Sunday. What does that mean? Well, you know, you don't get the crowds on Communion Sunday. People stay home. It's just Communion Sunday. And I'm like, really? So when I got into the Methodist tradition, yeah, I know you're looking at me that way, but let me tell you what, the tradition in America was that once a quarter, can you believe it? They did communion. And then we were pressed, you know, to try to find a way. People got out of the habit. So I love churches where I go and people want to do communion. It's a good day. That's why you're all here today, is because today's communion. It's the day that we, you know, fulfill what Christ says to us, you know, do this in remembrance of me. It's critically important. And it's that way. When I came back from Colorado, I came back to a community, and I discovered in my life that I need communion every Sunday. The problem was, I don't want to say problems. The challenge was the United Methodist Church in town didn't do that. And so I went to them and said, you know, do you do communion here? No. Well, can we do communion at another time for you? Or, you know, can you do that kind of thing? No. I thought, okay. So I went over to the Christian church in town. So I go to the Methodist church, but I go over to the Christian church and I do communion. I'd set through a worship service to do it, but I did it, the whole thing, then I come back. Well, word got around town that the Methodist pastor was hanging out at the Christian church, and he wasn't doing evangelism. He was over there listening up, doing things. And I said, I need that. I need communion. I don't know, and I never was that way, but somehow I needed that kind of thing, you know. And when I went to the church and they said, I'd sure like to have, can you do communion maybe just for me? And the pastor's response was, can't you do it yourself? Oh, I guess I could, but I'm thinking this may be something that we should do, you know, or whatever. I'm sure there's somebody else like us. Every once in a while, maybe nobody will show, but maybe somebody will show because they need it. And man, I tell you, that got to be a real thing. Bonnie, the pastor, came to me and he said, we're going to start having communion at our church. And I said, well, you saw the light. No, what we did was people have been talking about it in town, about how you're over there, and saying, why aren't we doing communion in our church? Why does he have to go to another church to do it? So we're going to do it in our church. I thought, yes, that's the way it goes and it starts. So maybe that's something you want to put on your list. You want to do communion. I have no idea, but just put that together and see what happens. Jesus said, do this in remembrance of me. You with me? Do this in what? In remembrance of me. The Greek word there is amnesis, is the word that's used. It's not amnesia, but it's amnesis. And what it talks about is the word remembrance. We translate it that way. Greek has this beautiful way of putting it technicolor and bringing the word back to us. So if you want to impress your friends, this is what it's about. Amnesis says that remembrance is something that is self-started. It comes from here. It's not something out there. It's something in you that wants you to remember. And when you do that and you want it to remember, what happens is you have to say it and do it because it reminds you of something that happened that impacted your life. You with me? It's like, do you remember your vacation? Oh, yeah. Do you remember your... Oh, yes. It's like as a pastor when I get to say to a couple who've been married 60 years, do you remember the first time you met your wife? And they look at me and go, who? Your wife, that lady. Oh, that lady, the one that lives with me. Yep, that's the one, you know. It's something that comes within us that says, you know what, I want to celebrate this moment that happened, and I want to remember it. It comes out of our inner core of who we are as part of that. It's what's called a predicative, aoristic nome. That's the Greek tense. It means that it's something that's happened to you and it continues to happen to you and it's part of your life. So I do communion because it happened. I begin to understand what it's about. And now I do it all the time. I can't do it enough almost because it's something I want to be. You know, it's that whole amnesis. It's that kind of remembrance. That's what this is supposed to be for us. Remember the guy say that you are what you... You are what you... Yeah. So if we eat this, what happens to us? Whoa. When I was a kid, I always loved that, man. I always think to myself, man, I'd sure like... They didn't let us have communion when we were kids. It was out of the old EUB, Evangelical United Brethren Church. They wouldn't let us do that. And I remember I used to sit there next to my mother, and man, they would pass around. You're shaking your head, you know. They'd pass around communion, and I'd sit there and I'd go, put your hand down, not yet. And I'd go, oh, it's refreshment time. And people go, oh. And then I thought, you know what? It is refreshment time. That's what's to be. And as a kid, I used to think, why would you keep that from me? So my mother would take communion, and all of a sudden she'd get done. She had that little communion cup, you know, and she'd dig it to me, and then she'd say, you can hold it. I'd look down in there, and I don't care how she drank it, there's a half of a drop smeared on the side. And I'd sit there and I'd look at that thing and I'd think, Then I'd have to stick my tongue in to try to reach anything that was in there, you know. And man, I tell you, put that down and I tell you, there's something that sprung in me. You hear me? There's something that happened. I was a kid. I didn't even know. But something happened. And I thought, I need this. So when the day came I could actually take communion, I thought, man, this is a great moment. We're to remember that thing. That's the way communion's to mean to us. Why? If you come here today and you've got a physical issue, you need to take communion because this is a communion of healing. If you come here today and what you need in your heart and in your life is to get your mind put back in order, then it is there to heal your mind emotionally, physically, or if you need to put your spirit back in mind, it's yours. Jesus says, come to this table and eat. Whatever you want, come. This is a welcoming table. And if you just say, yeah, I'm coming for the refreshment because I didn't eat breakfast, people used to say that to me. I'm thinking, that's right. Because you are what you eat. You come to this table. And if you don't even know what you need, come to this table and take it. Jesus said, that's not a problem. God knows. He can dig down into the middle of your head even when you don't even know what it is. And he says, it will come to you as a refreshment of your body, soul, mind, and spirit. Whatever you do, just come. I think that's why that guy showed up today. He just came. Tattoos and all. He just came. And I thought, man, what a gift it is to give. Just to come. Metairie, Louisiana, Katrina, Connie and I went down there when they had the big hurricane. Got down there, everything was flattened, everything else. Looked around, nothing's going on. People are living in these little holes, and it was just flat and everything else. My wife came to me all excited. She goes, guess what I found? I said, what's that? I found a church. And I thought, yeah, what was it? What is it? What's left of it? She goes, it's standing. Somebody built it out of concrete. What's the failure? The whole thing. I said, really? She goes, yeah. She goes, I think you ought to offer communion every day in that church. Well, I'm into that. And I said, well, who's going to come? She goes, I don't know. Well, there's nobody here. We need a banner. The banner that says, our welcome table is open to all. So we got it made, they overnighted it, and they delivered, UPS delivered in the middle of a hurricane. I don't know, there wasn't a street sign anywhere, but they found it, God bless them, and they got it there and put the sign out on the side. And you know what? People start coming out of these little piles of garbage that weren't piles, they made it into a house. It was where they stayed because there was nowhere for them to go. There was no movement. And they came there, and you know what? We offered communion. That's all we didn't have anything else to offer. Now, I won't tell you anymore, but we didn't have bread and we didn't have juice. So we had to find anything we could find to make it happen. But you know what? We celebrated communion. And we said, y'all are welcome to the welcoming table. This is Worldwide Communion Sunday, and we need to do something with it. So let's remind ourselves. On the night when Jesus gathered together with his disciples, he took the